I'm going to recognize myself for 5 minutes for the opening round of questions. Dr. Clancy, I'll direct my first one at you. You've previously detailed that you see two possible scenarios moving forward with this overall issue. One is the status quo, with the possibility of increased training and acknowledgement of these targeted attacks. The second is a substantive dive into address the issue, which includes a comprehensive assessment of how we treat cell phone towers, permissioned access, and policy changes through updates to phones. Can you provide a little more detail about the difference in the two options, and which would you prefer?
So I think there are a number of solutions that are possible within this space. There are technical solutions, there are policy solutions, there are legal solutions. I think that there are the key thing, though, is to ensure that any action that's taken to I guess, close the gaps that IMSI catchers leverage, takes into consideration a path forward for law enforcement around being able to conduct their operations. So I could imagine scenarios where we essentially look to prevent phones from connecting to IMSI catchers, scenarios where we shut down 2G preference for phones, in order to prevent them from being as susceptible to IMSI catchers. But I think any action that we take should be complemented with efforts to ensure that law enforcement still are able to get timely access to location information in order to support their investigations.
Who should lead the effort to have a comprehensive solution to these issues? What set of agencies or people?
Indeed. So certainly anytime we talk about telecommunications and cellular, it's tricky because there are so many stakeholders. DHS is the sector-specific agency associated with telecommunications, so they would seem like a logical choice to take the lead, but certainly the FBI, the FCC, and others are key stakeholders in this process.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Meyer, how does the recent Supreme Court decision on Carpenter versus the United States addressing citizens' Fourth Amendment rights change the acceptable use of this technology?
Thank you for the question. Carpenter, by its own terms, does not regulate real-time location tracking by law enforcement. The majority was clear on that point. It does, however, express a growing concern by the Supreme Court with the scope of law enforcement capability using modern technology, and to the extent it affects courts' views on cell site simulators, it will only serve to heighten the level of protection. That said, I want to be very clear to note, to my knowledge, every recent court decision that has addressed the question of whether cell site simulators are regulated by the Fourth Amendment has concluded that they are regulated by the Fourth Amendment and a warrant is required for their operation.
Do you think it'll have an impact on from this Carpenter decision on lawful and legitimate use of the rogue base stations or the IMSI catchers to thwart criminal activity?
So at the federal level, I don't believe there will be an effect because by policy, the Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security already obtain warrants to operate these devices. At the state and local level, my understanding is that some police departments do currently operate these devices without obtaining a search warrant, and they may continue to do those things notwithstanding the Carpenter decision. This issue has not been fully litigated in every jurisdiction.
Okay. Dr. Romine, NIST has published the Mobile Threat Catalog, which provides incredibly useful information about the overall issue of mobile device security. How is NIST getting this information out and in front of vendors and people that need to see it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a collection of stakeholders that are in contact with us on a regular basis. We have thousands of people who subscribe to our newsletters. In general, those are stakeholders that are monitoring the work that we do. We're working through the standards development organizations, the 3GPP, for example, which has a lot of the work that we're doing involves trying to help improve the security of telecommunications activities, and there are channels associated with getting the information out through those mechanisms as well. We also manage an active website with many tens of thousands of hits on a regular basis for people who are looking at what we're doing in cybersecurity broadly and for specific topic areas as well.
Is NIST working with other government agencies to promote this, such as the cybersecurity framework?
Well, it's not directly related to the cybersecurity framework, but we are working with other federal agencies. We encourage a large number of agencies to work, for example, in the standards development space, so that all of the requirements and associated concerns can be expressed in those bodies.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Byer.